I'll never forget the shock of bumping into my husband at a friend's baby shower. It seemed Jessica was unaware that Kyle and I were married, let alone that they had a child together. "I envy how happy you two seem," I said awkwardly, feeling like the odd one out in our once close trio. Jessica beamed. Kyle nodded awkwardly. But I knew the truth. I knew Kyle well enough to know he'd say things like, "Pregnancy isn't an illness, so don't be lazy," offering no help to his pregnant wife. The fact that he would cheat on me with our best friend was unforgivable. My resolve was set. I would make Kyle lose everything. "My name is Ashley, a beautician in a cozy regional city where I was born and raised. It's not as flashy as downtown, but it's home with a strong sense of community." Kyle and I were high school classmates, known as the couple everyone expected to marry. When people asked about Kyle, I always knew where he was, which led to teasing about being a good future wife. Jessica, another member of our trio, was always dreaming of going abroad, immersed in music and distant aspirations. She excelled academically and eventually studied overseas. After graduation, our contact dwindled to sporadic emails. Meanwhile, I pursued my passion for beauty, attending vocational school, and joining my family's salon. Kyle attended a local university and joined his family's beauty product business, which partnered with my family's salon, fueling gossip about our relationship. Quiet and reserved, Kyle was the opposite of me, yet we somehow clicked. Our relationship evolved naturally from high school, culminating in marriage without a formal proposal. We bought a spacious house and embarked on our new life. When I joyfully announced my pregnancy, expecting Kyle's happiness, his indifference stung. "Oh, is that so? Aren't you happy?" he replied, absorbed in his phone. Disappointed, I faced a tough pregnancy, forced to take early maternity leave due to health issues. Kyle's lack of empathy surfaced as he cited maternity leave regulations and criticized my reduced workload. "Pregnancy isn't an illness," he'd say callously, expecting me to maintain household chores despite my health challenges. Raised in a household where men didn't do housework, Kyle was clueless about domestic tasks, adding to my frustration. His disregard for my needs and his insensitive remarks about my pregnancy drove a wedge between us. As I navigated these challenges, Kyle's attitude worsened, leaving me feeling isolated and resentful. His habit of belittling me and prioritizing his comfort over my well-being pushed me to a breaking point. I attempted to excuse myself, saying I needed to use the bathroom, but he snapped, "I'm not done talking yet." And during his lengthy lecture, I'd barely made it to the bathroom in time. From behind me, I could hear Kyle's mocking comment, "That's so uncool." When we first married, I found Kyle's calm demeanor appealing. But since becoming pregnant, everything seemed to backfire. Instead of supporting me, he compared me to various cases he read about online. That celebrity returned to work immediately after giving birth and looked perfect. "You'll be the same, right?" "I don't know. Don't compare me so easily to such incredible people. We're both human," I replied, feeling the weight of Kyle's high expectations. He easily believed dubious information from the internet, turning our conversations into unpleasant arguments. Around the same time I got pregnant, Kyle started spending less time at home. Arguments like these were part of the reason, but he also began going out at night and on weekends, claiming it was for work. This new behavior was unlike our previous life together and far from the involved father figure society now expects. One night, when Kyle came home late, I decided to confront him. "You've been busy with work recently, haven't you?" "I'm trying to attract new clients." "It's none of your business," he retorted sharply. "But Kyle, have you been drinking? This isn't like you." "This is part of my job now. Stop nagging," he replied loudly enough that the neighbors could probably hear. I could smell alcohol on his breath, a stark contrast to how he had been before. "You never had to drink for work before. What's going on? You wouldn't understand. Basically, you are." His words trailed off into another round of sarcastic remarks, leaving me frustrated and uncertain about our future. "I work hard every day, and all you do is lay around at home. This doesn't make working worthwhile," Kyle accused, his voice filled with frustration. "I'm not just lazing around. I'm quite busy preparing for the birth." I defended myself, struggling to hold back tears. "That's no excuse to neglect housework. You hardly put on makeup anymore. It's like you're giving up on being a woman just because you're pregnant," he continued, his words cutting deep. Holding back tears that threatened to spill, I turned to put Kyle's bag back on the shelf. As I did, a small object fell to the floor with a clink. "What's this?" I asked, picking up the wireless earbuds casually and examining them. They were small, shaped like earrings in a cute pink color that seemed designed to appeal to women. Don't you dare touch my bag without permission. That's an invasion of privacy, Kyle snapped sharply. It's not unusual for me to do this, but Kyle, you don't usually use earbuds. Are these someone else's? We should probably return them, I suggested calmly. That's for me to worry about. Just focus on your housework. Why can't you even get that right? Kyle's reaction was unexpectedly intense for simply pointing at a lost item. As I opened my mouth to speak further, I felt a dull impact on my stomach. Kyle had kicked me. Don't forget that you're being supported by me. If you keep interfering, I'll have to reconsider things, he threatened before storming off to his room. Confused and hurt, I couldn't comprehend what had just happened. Tears finally escaped as I stood there, feeling alone and unsure about our future. I sat on the floor, stunned, replaying the recent events in my mind. It didn't make sense why I deserved to be kicked. Kyle's reaction was incomprehensible to me. The next day, for safety's sake, I went to the hospital to check on my stomach. I couldn't bring myself to admit that my husband had kicked me, so I lied, saying I had fallen at home. Fortunately, the baby was fine, but the area where I had been kicked was bruised and sore. Amidst this turmoil, some good news arrived. My best friend Jessica had given birth. I knew she had studied abroad and found a job there, but apparently, she had returned to the US. I had hoped to bring Kyle along for a reunion of our close trio, but he was away on a business trip. Reluctantly, I went alone to congratulate her. In her bright hospital room, Jessica lay on the bed with a relieved expression. As I entered, she managed to sit up slightly. It's been so long. Congratulations on the birth. I greeted her. Thank you. I actually came back to the US about a year ago but couldn't contact you. I'm sorry. I'm just glad the baby was born safely, Jessica replied, looking more polished and mature than during our student days. Beside her pillow lay the same earbuds I had found in Kyle's belongings. She seemed to notice my gaze. Oh, these? They're my favorite. I lost one the other day, but my boyfriend found it for me. Really? What's your husband like? I asked, curious. We haven't registered our marriage yet. Actually, he is. Her words were interrupted by a knock on the door. To my surprise, Kyle entered the room. I was too shocked to say anything. Surprise, right? I'm currently dating Kyle, Jessica announced casually, unaware that Kyle and I were married, innocently smiling at me. Hey, welcome. Long time no see, Kyle greeted, his nonchalant attitude heightening my confusion. It's a reunion of our close trio. I started seeing Kyle again after returning to the US. We're planning to get married, but we've been busy with paperwork. I see. Actually, as you can see, I'm pregnant too, I replied calmly, feeling overwhelmed but determined to protect myself and my child. I pondered the best way to handle the situation. I must protect this child and myself, I reminded myself. My husband is away on business now. I really wanted to bring him today, but I couldn't, I added, feeling a pang of regret. That's a shame. I wanted to meet Ashley's husband, Jessica commented. It really is a pity, but having a husband like yours who accompanies you is definitely better. My boyfriend hardly helps at all. I glared at Kyle discreetly, but he deliberately looked away. You two look so happy together, Jessica remarked, oblivious to the tension. Ah, the only one left out of our close-knit trio, Jessica, Kyle. I hope you'll always be happy, no matter what, I said, trying to maintain a composed demeanor. Jessica nodded with a beaming smile, while Kyle nodded awkwardly. Oh, this is for the baby shower. I heard bids are always useful, so I bought some, Jessica said, changing the subject, offering the gift with a warm gesture. I even got matching ones for my baby. They're cute. Thank you, Jessica exclaimed happily. You must be excited for your baby too, Ashley. Yes, once I have a healthy baby, we should all go out together, I replied warmly. At the mention of all, Kyle's shoulders twitched. I pretended not to notice and smiled brightly. By the way, can we take a photo? Jessica asked suddenly. She held the baby and Kyle stood next to her. I forced a smile and agreed. After the photo, I excused myself from the hospital room. Before I knew it, my breathing became ragged and my shoulders heaved. Beyond the door, I could hear Jessica's excited voice and Kyle's low responses. Leaving the hospital, I rushed home. Opening my phone, I contacted a real estate agent immediately. Hello, I know this is sudden, but I want to sell my house, I explained urgently. Yes, you can list it right away. I'll complete the paperwork quickly. Also, could you recommend a moving company? I asked, arranging everything swiftly through the agent's connections. Next, I called Kyle's mother. Due to an urgent situation with Kyle, I'm sending some belongings your way. There will be a lot, so please don't be surprised, I informed her, deciding to erase any trace of our shared home. Kyle had mentioned he would be on a business trip until tomorrow, likely planning to stay elsewhere tonight. Though I wanted to send his belongings directly to his parents' house, I hesitated not to shock my mother-in-law. At least informing her was the least I could do. After finalizing these arrangements, I noticed a series of missed calls from Kyle. In fact, he had been trying to reach me continuously since I left the hospital. Ignoring the calls, I calmly drank water. Then a message appeared. Let's talk things over, just the two of us. But what was there to discuss in this state? Moreover, after being kicked in the stomach, my wariness of Kyle had transformed into deep distrust, and I couldn't bear to hear his voice anymore. Immediately upon arriving home, I began packing. I entered Kyle's room and started stuffing his belongings into boxes. Thankfully, it was the off-season for moving, so I signed up for a plan that included packing assistance. The shipping went smoother than expected, and soon, only my belongings remained. My parents came over promptly upon my request, and we completed the move swiftly. While packing Kyle's room, I stumbled upon something unexpected, an incomplete divorce form. It appeared Kyle had already started the process to leave me for Jessica. Seeing an opportunity, I filled in the remaining sections of the form and decided to keep it safe. Just then, my phone rang. It was my mother-in-law. Ashley, I knew some belongings were coming, but I didn't expect so many. What happened? She asked anxiously. Actually, Kyle has been having an affair. Do you remember Jessica from high school? It seems he had a child with her, I revealed, sensing her shock on the other end of the line. While I sympathized with her, I continued, unfortunately, I have evidence. I sent her the photo I had taken in the hospital room showing Jessica with the baby, with Kyle standing beside them. I don't want to believe it, but it's true. I don't want to believe it either, but it's the truth. My mother-in-law admitted quietly. I'm going to stay at my parents' house starting tonight, I informed her. After trying unsuccessfully to reach Kyle, my mother-in-law seemed troubled. She asked if I knew his whereabouts. Unable to contain my emotions, I blurted out, he's no longer family to me. My mother-in-law seemed to understand my decision. That night, I took my belongings and returned to my childhood home, where I slept peacefully in my old room. The next morning, I received a message from Kyle. Hey, the house is empty and there's a for sale sign up. What's going on? He asked. Don't you understand? Your home isn't there anymore. For now, I've sent your things to your parents' house, I replied, firm in my decision to move forward without him. I'm changing the locks tomorrow, so coming back will be pointless, I informed Kyle firmly. What have you done? Let's talk, at least. I suppose we must. I'll come to your parents' house this afternoon. I'll contact your mother myself, Kyle responded urgently. I quickly ended the call and began preparing to go out that afternoon. Soon, all the relevant parties gathered at Kyle's parents' house. Kyle's parents, my parents, Kyle, and myself. My mother-in-law looked particularly pale but bravely started the conversation. Kyle, is it true that you're having an affair with your friend Jessica? She asked directly. An affair? No, Mom, we just started dating late, that's all, Kyle replied, attempting to downplay the situation. I'm not interested in excuses, and there's a child involved too. It seems you're quite compatible, my mother-in-law retorted sharply. The next moment, she shocked us all by punching Kyle. How could you do this? Ashley is pregnant with your child? How can you face her? She cried out in anguish. It was the first time I had seen Kyle's usually calm and sophisticated mother act like this. A trickle of blood ran from Kyle's nose, but he seemed unaware. Ow, what was that for? It's natural for a child to be born to a couple in love. How can you say such a thing? My mother-in-law continued, her voice trembling with emotion. Intervening in the argument, I spoke up. First of all, why did you even start dating Jessica? Kyle hesitated before answering. I ran into her at the station while I was out on sales calls. She had just returned to the US and was busy with her new job. She had a charm that you don't have. That doesn't sound like a reason to start dating. I've actually liked Jessica since high school, but I thought she was out of my league, so I settled for you, Kyle admitted selfishly, leaving me speechless at his blunt honesty. When I met Jessica again and we talked about the past, I realized she didn't think badly of me. There was no reason not to be together, Kyle added, revealing that he had kept his marriage to me a secret from Jessica. He had considered divorcing me when Jessica got pregnant, but around the same time, meeting at Kyle's parents' house, I had become pregnant too. Kyle didn't have the courage to divorce or the resolve to remarry, so things continued as they were. How can you be so selfish? Aren't you ashamed of juggling two women? Jessica and Ashley are completely different, Kyle's mother exclaimed, her anger palpable. Meeting Jessica again made me realize how unsatisfied I was with Ashley. I plan to remarry Jessica and step up as a man, Kyle responded defensively. Don't joke. I'm ashamed to call someone like you my son, his mother retorted angrily. If that's how you feel, we will sever our parent-child relationship. You're fired from the company too. From now on, live on your own. I don't care. I wondered silently. Kyle had always worked in our small family business. Would he be able to handle a different job? You don't understand anything. The only reason you could work until now was thanks to Ashley's beauty salon, his mother accused. Ashley's salon? That small country shop didn't have much to do with my performance, Kyle argued defensively. The only reason you managed to get any results was because Ashley's salon was promoting our products, you ungrateful person. His father interjected, his disappointment evident. They had been silently listening to the conversation until now. They declared regretfully that they would stop doing business with Kyle's company. It can't be helped. I'll start a new business. I'm still young, and if I study, I can do anything. Jessica will return to work soon after giving birth, so our new life will be secure, Kyle muttered into his smartphone. So he says. Suddenly Jessica's voice loudly exclaimed over the speaker. I had been connected to Jessica via a video call from the beginning of the meeting. Are you stupid? If I had known you were married to Ashley, I would never have dated you. I can't believe I ended up betraying Ashley too. Jessica continued, her disappointment and frustration evident. Your lack of foresight in this conversation is astonishing. Frankly, you have no talent as a business person, Jessica concluded, her tone cutting and final. I contacted Ashley and decided to join the discussion. I'm glad I listened in. I never want to see you again. Wait, don't leave me. Why should I stay with someone as awful as you? Kyle pleaded desperately. I'll raise the baby on my own, but I'll be taking child support, Jessica declared firmly. Kyle seemed to realize there was no convincing her. He turned to me, his face stained with dried blood, and begged, Ashley, I was wrong. Forget everything and let's raise our child together. I refuse to continue a marriage with such a scoundrel. I can't forget the terrible things you've done, I replied coldly, recalling the shock of seeing Kyle in Jessica's hospital room. Don't be so stubborn. Aren't you supposed to be the kind one? Kyle looked at me desperately. Shaking my head slowly, I said, it's too convenient for you to come back to me just because things didn't work out with Jessica. But you'll have trouble raising the child on your own, won't you? I have a profession, and a father like you is more of a hindrance than a help. I'm not foolish enough to cling to a useless man. Having already discussed everything with my parents, who were fully supportive and had connections through their business, I presented the divorce papers I have found in Kyle's drawer. As you can see, I've prepared the divorce papers. All that's left is to submit them. Let's quickly settle the property division and child support. Wait, I have to pay Jessica, and now you too. Kyle's face fell as reality set in. Of course, I'm still your wife after all. But don't think you can neglect Jessica either. We have lawyers ready, I replied firmly. Kyle buried his face in his hands. Suddenly, I felt an unfamiliar pain in my abdomen. Ow, it hurts. At that moment, I realized I was going into labor. The meeting adjourned abruptly, and my parents rushed me to the hospital. Exhausted from the emotional turmoil of the meeting and childbirth, I collapsed into bed and slept deeply. Even when the nurses woke me, I was hardly aware. After being discharged, I returned to my parents' house with my baby. My mother, a discreet beautician, spread the word about Kyle's actions among her clients, primarily housewives. Her few words quickly spread throughout the town. Meanwhile, Kyle attempted to start an online sales company, underestimating the power of personal connections and relying on the internet. However, his abilities fell short compared to the strength of word of mouth. Unable to secure bank funding due to the rumors, his business failed to launch. Another blow came from Jessica, who had recorded the entire confrontation via video call. She edited Kyle's self-centered behavior into a short video and shared it with our high school classmates. As a result, Kyle lost all his friends and any remaining support. Left to fend for himself, Kyle was kicked out of his parents' house and ended up living in an internet cafe, depleting his savings. Struggling to find work and housing as an unemployed man with no fixed address, he eventually moved to a distant area. Kyle managed to find day labor but struggled with unfamiliar physical work. There was no mercy for him. I warned him that missing even one child support payment would lead to legal action for assaulting me while pregnant. The photos I took of my injuries and the medical records from the hospital visit would be substantial evidence. Submitting the divorce papers, I became a single mother almost simultaneously with giving birth. But I was not alone. I found a larger apartment and decided to live with Jessica. The four of us, Jessica, me, and our babies, started a new life together. The children get along like siblings, and Jessica and I, always best friends, grew even closer. With Kyle out of the picture, we supported each other with childcare, making work and personal time manageable. We're planning to make our public debut together when the kids are a bit older. For now, we're enjoying this comfortable life.